Welcome to this class on factorization revision. Now, before we get started, I'm taking a moment to celebrate you. I'm celebrating you for not clicking on any of the clickbait that's available on YouTube, but instead choosing to bring your full undivided attention to this video put together just for you. So here we go. Also, as you proceed through this video, if you see tough examples or you feel yourself feeling like, I don't feel like doing this, bring your goals to mind. Feel into them. Feel the force behind them really propelling you forward into trying again, and trying again, because the practice is what really does make the difference in maths. So make sure that you have that goal, your why, your purpose in mind, even as you really struggle through these questions. Now first, let's do a little crash course on factorization. What is it? Basically, it is a way of changing the form of a mathematical expression without changing the form's actual value. You're not actually changing the value, just the form. Now, the goal of this is usually to take a complex expression and simplify it. In other words, usually to have it make it into less terms, or to have less values or less complex values. Now here's a requirement in order to understand this video and to participate in it fully. It is knowledge on the different methods of factorization. Now these include common factors, difference between squares, trinomials, grouping, and the sum or difference between cubes. If you are not very familiar with these methods, or you feel like you need more practice, please subscribe to my channel first and share this video. This really helps me to keep publishing new helpful content. And then you can also find the source of this practice examples on factorization in the video description below. So make sure that you hit that description, check out those extra examples there. For now, let's go to a couple of worked examples, because as we mentioned, it's only through practice that we can really do well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to pause the video right here and to just try these examples first. Factorize the following expressions. Pause the video right here, give it a shot. All right, so assuming that you've given each of these examples a shot, let's go through them now together. The first one looks as follows. Now, a tip for solving any of these questions, and all of the questions, is to actually go through these methods of factorization one by one. I do recommend this approximate order, first checking your common factors, then difference between squares, trinomials, grouping, and sum and difference between cubes. You, by now in this video, should know these requirements, and if not, then please do check the other practice examples first. So if we go through each of those in order, we can see that we can, in this example, take out a common factor. So if you have a look at each of these, they can each be divided by 7. In other words, 7 is a common factor. If we take 7 out as a common factor, let's see if there are any variables or alphabet letters that are common. And I don't know about you, but I can see A's in every single one of these terms. Terms, again, are separated by plus or minus signs only. So the common factor is 7A. Now, what's left when we divide 35A by 7A? It's going to be 5. What's left when we divide 7AB by 7A? It is just B, so plus B. We divide each of these terms now. We're going to divide this by 7A, divide each of these by 7A, and at the end of the day, that's going to give us this value right here. Okay, and that's it. First question is done and dusted. Just remember that when you take out a common factor, you just open a bracket or open up some brackets, divide each value by the common factor, and that will give you the remainder in the brackets. Right, the next example is as follows. How did you answer this one? Well, over here, they were actually nice and kind to us. They pretty much gave us the common factor already in brackets. So all we needed to do in this example was take out the bracket, a plus b, and then put whatever else is left right next door to the other one. No plus or minus signs in between, just two brackets right next to each other, 3a minus 4b. And that one, we can check and just see, okay, are there any other common factors left? No, there aren't. So that one is now complete. All done. Let's go to the next one. Now this one, we really needed to stop and think here a little bit because you can see there are no common factors. But can we do the difference between squares here? Now this is something where I really want you to look out for these types of questions, because yes, you can. There's a minus sign there, and even though these aren't squares per se, they are even numbers. So what we can do is we can separate this into a squared. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick that I usually do. I usually just put the brackets right next to each other like this with the same terms, in other words, the a in the front and in the same terms at the back, so the b in the back of the brackets. And then difference between squares means different signs, so then we just do plus, minus, and there we go. Now if we have a look at this expression, can we take this any further? Well, we most certainly can, because check it out. Over here we have another difference between squares. Do we have a difference between squares in the first bracket? No, we do not. We have a plus sign between there, which means it's not a difference between squares. So let's now rewrite the first bracket. We don't change it at all, but we do have two brackets for the difference between squares. So let's do that again. A is in front, B is at the back, and then plus, minus. And there we go. Let's see, can we factorize this any further? Nope, everything is sorted. So this is now our final answer for letter C. Now let's go on to D. Can we take out a common factor here? Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Can we do difference between squares? No, because there are more than two terms. Can we do trinomials? Let's check it out. So first we're going to see, okay, can we get factors of this back number? And immediately I'm seeing, just from knowing the times tables, that 144, that is the answer to 12 times 12. Now, originally, and I always do recommend this, you can check all of your factors of 144 and write them out. But in this instance, we can see that 12 and 12, it's already giving us something that looks like it could be the middle factor here. So I'm going to leave that out. For factorizing quadratic equations, I have a bunch of other videos on my YouTube channel just on this topic specifically. So I'm going to invite you to check out my other videos on solving quadratic equations if you are not familiar with what I'm doing right here. So remember, check out my other videos on my channel. For now, I'm going to make two wide open brackets like that, and we're going to put the x's, in other words the first term, in front of the brackets. We're going to put the factors at the back of 144, in other words the constant value or the just plain number, at the back of the brackets like this. And then because we have a plus sign here, the values or the signs in the bracket are going to be the same, and the sign that they're going to have is the sign of the middle value, which is minus. Because we're just doing, I'm assuming that you have some idea of how to simplify or factorize quadratic trinomials here. I'm just going to invite us to multiply these brackets out again. Okay, I'm just using the colors here to indicate which values you would multiply, like so. And if we did, we would get x squared minus 12x plus 144. And if we add these minus 12x's together, we get minus 24x. And that is the same as our original answer, which means that the way we factorized here is indeed correct. We're ready to go on to our next question. Let's have a look at letter E. Alrighty. So in E, we see a lot going on here. There's a lot of different variables. There's a couple of numbers as well. So what did you do? Can we do taking out a common factor? Not exactly, because there's A's in here, but there's also B's, and not all of them have A's and all of them have B's. So when not all of the terms have the same variables that we can take out, the next best thing for us to do is to group. And that's what I'm going to invite us to do over here, to group. In other words, we're going to rearrange the variables and in the expression right here, the terms in the expression, and we're going to put the terms together which we can group. So let's take, for example, a3c plus 3a squared bd. Okay, we're just putting these ones together with the signs now. Okay, and then let's do in another color, let's do minus 12 b squared d minus 4abc. Okay, now we've got them all grouped up. Let's see if we can now take out a common factor, and I just may correct this one because that was a bd. Okay, there we go. And now let's see, can we take out a common factor here? We most certainly can. Check it out, the a is common, so we'll take out a squared. We always take out the highest common factor. What's left if we divide a3c by a squared? We get ac. Then if we have a look at the next one, if we divide this by a squared, we get 3bd. Okay, just for keeping the colors consistent, I'm gonna also stick to blue for the second group. Now in these groups I can see that we can divide, both of these can be divided by 4 and by b. Right, so if we divide this by 4b and this by 4b, what's remaining? Well, minus 12 divided by 4b, or minus 12b squared d divided by 4b is equal to 3bd, and let's put this in brackets now, minus, oh sorry, I forgot to put the common factor outside the bracket, can't forget that there. Okay, so I just took the minus sign there, and then 4b, and then we have left over here 3bd, and be very careful with the next part. Remember that because you have the minus sign outside the bracket, this sign now becomes positive. Reason being, if you multiply these two together, negative times positive gives you negative, which gives you minus 12b squared d. Okay, so just make sure that you get that part. And then the second term will also be positive. Okay, and that's going to be minus 4abc divided by 4b, which gives us ac. Now, I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing that we have a common bracket over here. Doesn't matter that the terms are switched around, they have the same sign in front of them. It's positive AC and positive 3BD, so you can essentially call it the same bracket. So let's write out that same bracket in front, and then we have in another bracket, remember to put the brackets right next to each other, a squared minus 4b, and that is your final answer there. We have one more today, and that is question F. Now, if you look at question F, what can you notice? Well, first things first, if we know our cubes, we should notice that these are all cubic values. In other words, the method of factorizing I'm going to use here is difference or sum between cubes. So do we have a difference or a sum here? Judging from that, it's going to be a sum. So what we're going to do is, as before, we're going to first find the cubed roots of these variables and numbers. So 64, what's the cubed root of 64? It's going to be 4. Cubed root of 125 is 5. If we find the cubed root of b to the power of 6, this is almost like saying 6 divided by 3, which would give us b to the power of 2. Okay, and then we're going to write each of those values in the first bracket with a plus sign between them, since this is a sum. 4b squared plus 5. That's our first value. Then, and this is something that different people will teach in different ways, but the best thing I've come across is that when it's a sum of cubes, remember that you have a plus sign in the first bracket. The sign, sorry, this part I'm talking about now is the signs. The signs of the difference and sum between cubes is something that many students get confused with. But to keep the signs organized, just make sure that you know that sum of cubes means that there's going to be a plus sign in the first bracket. And then in the second bracket, you're going to have a minus first and then a plus. So it goes plus, minus, plus. Whoops, that's not a plus sign. There we go. Now we can fill in the remaining trinomial in this first part of the bracket. We find this by basically saying 64 divided by 4, which gives us 16. And then we say b6 divided by b squared. And with our exponential laws, we would know that that's b cubed. Then we do the same with the final term first. 125 divided by 5 it gives us 25. So we write that in our last bracket. Now to get the middle term, this is something where you'll get used to it with time. But essentially to find the middle term, we're going to multiply the two numbers together that are in the first bracket. So 4 times 5. 4 times 5 gives us 20. And then we get 20 over there, knowing that our term needs to have a squared, this needs to be a trinomial essentially. So this first value needs to have double the degrees, or in other words, double the exponent of the middle value. So we need to find half of this exponent for our middle term. So that's going to be on the b squared as opposed to cubed. And that's how you'd find the middle term. There are other ways to go about it, but what I found is the easiest way to do it is to actually just use the values that you have in your first bracket, because that's the one you can be most assured of. Like once you found the cubed roots, they are the cubed roots period, and they're the safest to work with. Okay, so you multiply those two values. 4 times 5 gives you the 20, and then the variable on the middle term, the degree, in other words the exponent, needs to be half of the value of this exponent. So this is 4 squared, so this one is going to be b squared. Okay, this one was a bit of a trickier example. Usually if it's a cubed root, it just has b cubed, and then there wouldn't be any like these exponents are a bit higher than usual. But that's why we listen to this video, because you want the more challenging example. So I hope that this helped you solve now a couple more challenging examples. If you use different methods to what I used, cool. So long as we got to the same outcome, that's great. I encourage that. And remember, if you're feeling at the end of this video like you're a little bit stressed out, like you don't know what's going on, again, subscribe to my channel if you want more help. Also, check out the resources I've linked in the video. They're all free, so that you can really get more practice. Proud of you for making this far. Keep being strong. Keep practicing. You'll do well.